It's nice to see all your faces. Can you get to look around? It was nice this morning to go around to do Ken time. Ken means to see, and time means where the mats are. So it's seeing the mats, but I think really what it is, it's seeing the people. Seeing the people. I see you, teachers saying. And the people look back and they see the teacher. And it's a wonderful thing, that sharing, that we do here together in this vessel. This great vessel. And it's bounded by the mountains and rivers and the great earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful life. So how are you doing today? This is, traditionally, this is the toughest day of a 1 week, 6 or 7 day session, and day 3. Day 1, we're just kind of getting into it. Day 2. And day 3, it's getting a little rougher. It's getting a little harder. So what do we do when it gets hard, when it gets rough, when we feel unsettled? We sit. We do exactly what we're doing right now. Right? We just sit. And we settle in. And we settle in. And we settle in. And slowly, slowly, a little of that noise begins to settle out. And slowly, slowly, as we just, without really even noticing it, we get more quiet inside. And suddenly, the mountains and rivers and the great earth appear. And they come for us. Come to help us, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So, in the last 24 hours, I think I've had about 3 different koans that I thought I would bring up to you. And certainly within PZI, I kind of feel like we're like ducks for force-fed koans. We got this great taste as a result. But one that sort of settled with me over the last, few hours is the great way, the greatest way knows no difficulty. Just avoid picking and choosing. If I can just avoid picking and choosing, I'll know no difficulty. And Zhaozhou says, as soon as you hear these words, picking, choosing, you start making choices. Or you start saying, this is delusion and this is clarity. This is the way I shouldn't be, and this is the way I should be. And he says, I don't abide, I don't dwell in, I don't identify with clarity. Think of that statement that he's making. This is one of the most realized Chan Zen masters of all time. And he says, I don't abide in clarity. I don't live in clarity. And so, of course, you always have that monk, like the Oliphant cartoons where they've always got the little guy there asking the question, And so the little Oliphant guy says, You say you don't abide in clarity. Isn't that picking and choosing? If you don't abide in clarity, where do you live? And Zhaozhou said, he says, I don't know. He said, I don't know. That's an amazing thing to say, I don't know. For the greatest realized Zen master of all time to say, I don't know. But that's that openness, right? When he says, I don't know, everything then is possible. Clarity, fucked upness, excuse my language, beauty, ugliness, you, me, the universe, mountains and rivers and the great earth, they all become possible. But if he knew, then it'd be smaller, right? The world would be smaller. And he would be smaller. And he'd be making everything around him smaller. And then the more we know, the more narrow the path gets. It gets so narrow we can't even walk on it anymore. Right? And so this practice is about making the path wider. That's all. And it gets so wide. It gets so wide, you can't avoid taking a step on the path. You know, it's interesting because I have a Japanese copy or a Chinese copy of this Koan, and I just checked the character. And I would have thought like the Great Way is like large, like we're hearing the brocade and indigo. Daiyu is a large, great dragon. Takes a long time to write that character, so. And I thought, oh, it's going to be large way, right? That makes sense. It's not actually the character, the Chinese character, the translation of the greatest way or the great way, which you read all the time in clear, is the way that has arrived. The way that has arrived. Which means the great way is this way. This is the way that has arrived. This is the arrived way, my way. Right here, right? That's arrived. That's arrived. And that's the great way. And that's our way. And that's our day 3 way, right? Maybe the choppy way. You know, in the Heart Sutra, it goes, so Shariputra, without gaining anything, bodhisattvas live prajna paramita. With no walls in the mind, and therefore no fears. Far beyond delusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. So many translations. And I've thought a lot about walls in the mind recently. The walls in the mind that I build. Me, I didn't, you know. I'm not talking about you now. And these walls in the mind, and I can see them. And they're painful. And I get tired of them. but they are the universe in that moment. In that arrived moment, they are the universe. And you hear Tess and Allison particularly, both of them talk about just stay with it. Just stay with it. Stay with that day 3 mind. Because, as David pointed out last night, the world changes. The world changes. Walls in the mind. Some months ago, I had an experience that was just so bizarre. I was building up all these walls in my mind, and it was so painful about relationships and people I knew, fears that I had. And I almost couldn't believe myself. Almost thought, God, I'm cracking up. And I stayed with it. I stayed with it. And I don't know, the feeling I had was I was pounding my head against the wall. I was like that mosquito, going after that iron bull. How's a mosquito get after an iron bull again and again? I stayed with it. And I don't know exactly what happened or when it happened. Then I was washed out. Washed out. Clear. It's wonderful to stay with it. So you can't disassociate, you can't uncouple that wall in the mind from no wall, from freedom, from a path so wide we cannot help but step on it and walk it. That's the light inside the dark. It's the dark inside the light. And it's an amazing thing. And sometimes it's really hard to articulate. We've had a little bit of, more than a little bit of loss and sickness, obviously. I've shared with you, Joan's illness. But also, we lost my father-in-law. And I was with him in the hospital, and it was about a month before he died. And he was looking like hell. He was very pale. He was asleep. And his mouth was open. And I was sitting quietly in the hospital room with him. And it was just a beauty to that. It was hard to explain. I couldn't go to anybody and say, "Your dad looks beautiful." Couldn't do that. You can't do that. It's just something me, private. There is in that apparent ugliness a certain beauty, a certain light. I felt in recent weeks that light a lot. We had this great reception for my nephew. It's like 105 people. And being a former financial analyst, and mostly I'd work on spreadsheets all day long. It's like my meditation. That's really cool. 5,000 times whatever. There's only a few of you who would laugh at that in a knowing way. So, I put on lots of parties, at our place for like 100 people. And so I have a spreadsheet, like 3 ounces of chicken per person times 100 people equals this many ounces divided by 16 is how many pounds of chicken you buy. That kind of thing. I go down and the whole list, all the detail. It's 2 pages of spreadsheet. And that's not a mind of not knowing. Of course, by the time we get there, it's never the same number of people. It's never the same amount of chicken in the rest. So we really don't know. So I emailed it off to my nephew, who was doing all of my himself. He's EMT, going to school to become a nurse, and give me a call, if you want to talk about it. How much chicken your average person will eat, And crickets. Weeks go by, the receptionist coming. Oh, Graham, are you and Steph going to have a band? Oh no, I know a guy who, he plays the tape. Well, how many umbrellas do you think you need, Graham? I don't know, how many you got? And we got there, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I just backed away. I tried to check that wall in the mind. And when I was there, we were cleaning up on Sunday, so it was really a 2 day event. And I got a call from Joan, Tarrant. And he sounded good. And I knew if he's making outgoing calls to people going to Sesshin, which I was one, I felt fortunate for it. I knew he was feeling better. And so he said, how he just understated, makes jokes, and I think in any condition he can't help but make a joke. And he said, well, my virologist came in. He looked at me, he looked at my chart, he looked back at me, he looked at my chart, and he said, you and I are going to be very good friends for the next 6 weeks. And I started laughing so hard that probably Allison, who wasn't on the phone but sitting next to me, could hear it after a time, this is enough, I realized later that it was just a great release of tension for me, that he's stabilized, So, and I looked to the bushes to the right, and it was alive with bees. I was walking down the road, and Christina, I think, was looking at bottle brush and was humming with bees. And I had that experience on Sunday. It was so alive with life. It wanted to live. A few weeks ago, we did the Koan, does a dog have good in nature or not? And Zhaozhou sometimes would like to say yes, right? And so I looked at the translation, and why did he jump into that skin bag? Which I love that, that image. Why did we jump into our skin bag? Why are we here? And there's lots of translations after that. That next line is a little hard to translate. One is because he dogged, which I love the spirit of that director, because he dogged. He had to realize his doggedness. You know? Another is because he, I don't even quite know what the other is, but I'll tell you mine. He knew he was transgressing, but he couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself. And I love that translation because that's me. I don't want to build walls in the mind, but I can't help myself. And that's okay. Because Zhaozhou tells us we've already arrived. We're already here. It's the arrived way. It's the way that is right here. The walls in the mind. No walls in the mind. There was a psychologist, Kinnicott, who he talked about the good enough mother. You don't want a perfect mom. It'd be a nightmare. You want a mom who can get angry at you, and love you, feed you, forget to make your sandwich sometimes. Who knows? Not do that. Not do what? We had 6 kids, and my mom had 6 kids in 8 years. And so I think by the time we were about 4 or 5, this is the button you push on the washing machine. We're washing our own clothes and stuff. We never felt abandoned or anything. It was just too much to do. She was working. So you want a good enough mom. And you are good enough. You are more than good enough. You've already arrived. We read this poem a couple times with Marie Howe, who has become our friend. She was supposed to come to the session. Maybe she'll come to Open Mind, which would be fun. She's wonderful. Poet. She just won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry in the United States. And we read this poem, The Gate, and she had 10 kids in her family. Can you believe that? 10 kids in her family. And anyway, her brother Joan died of AIDS when he was 28. She was very close to Joan. There's a lot of poems about him, actually, almost a whole book. And she said something like this. She said, I was really surprised to find that I would pass through the gate of my life shaped by the form of my brother. So she's passing through the gate is actually him. And he's taller than me, but at 28, he was done. He had folded every sheet. He had washed every glass in cold and running water. And sitting at the kitchen table, he used to tell me, this is what you're waiting for. And she'd say, what? And I'd say, what? This is what you're waiting for. And he would hold up my cheese and mustard sandwich, this, and kind of look around. Thank you. I guess questions on top, if we have any comments. I've got more poetry.
Hi, Joan. I just wanted to thank you for that talk. When you say you stayed with the walls in the mind, what does that look like?
It feels like hell. Yeah.
Versus distracting yourself elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, how can you, I was talking to somebody about the obsession of the mind, when it's really grabbing you, it's really grabbing you, it won't let go, it won't let go. There's something really great about that, though. And that's why that, just like Johnny's death and life became Marie's gate, that becomes our gate. That itself flips. It's such a powerful gate, right? And so just staying with it, and staying with it, and staying with it. Yeah. I'm sorry. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Can you say more about what you mean when you say the rivers and trees and so on are coming for us?
Yeah. Well, this is, it's kind of inconceivable.
Yeah.
But this is a personal universe. This universe is for you. And this stick is for you. The chair that you're sitting in is for you. And this building is for you. We talk about, remember the Koan about Dalong, who's there with the monk, and there's crows tearing apart. It's all for you, your honorable. And as we sit, a little more quiet, we feel that word intimacy, and that's that where there's no separation really between self and other is a way to say it, but another way to say it would be like this. We could go like that. That's another way. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, except I don't know what that means.
Yeah, let me show you again. Wood on wood. Well, let's look at the Koan we have now. Okay. So he says, when the hard and fast body of reality, this our world will fall and scatter away. And the monk asks that question, so what is left then? And Great Dragon comes back and he says, well, it's these beautiful mountain flowers, and they look like brocade. And this valley stream is so deep, like indigo. And so, I don't know, David last night was talking about, you see these things outside. Sometimes it's harder to see inside, inside that this very body is the Buddha. But when it's all wiped away, we have this, we take a step across the empty sky. So I hope that answers. Okay, we've done it. Thank you. More.
Questions, but if there are none, you've heard of it, the most enlightened master, the Chan master. What makes for a most enlightened Chan master?
What makes for emotion?
A most enlightened. You
Most enlightened human being?
No, you refer to the Chan master.
Why was he the most enlightened?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it?
What is that?
I don't know. He's most respected. Yeah, Zhaozhou is one of the most famous.
Right. I thought maybe there was a formula,
Yeah, but the point that David makes last night, I really like, which is, every little bit of enlightenment is all of enlightenment. Every little, and that is so true. It's just absolutely true. So, and we now have a little bit of enlightenment. So, keep going. Yes.
I just want to say thank you. And I just feel the deep roots of both David and your practice. And it just incredibly touched me.
Thank you. We're here for each other. It's so pleasant. It's so nice to be with you. I was talking to somebody who hadn't been here in a while. To see so many familiar faces and to see so many new faces. And, it's a wonderful thing we're doing. It's the greatest way, really.